Hello and welcome back to the Royal Horticultural Society's Chelsea Flower Show 2022.
We've really enjoyed this week, haven't we? And it's great to have it back in May, Monty.
Well, I think that's
especially when the weather's like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have had rain.
A lot of it.
But it's been 3 years since we had a May show. It's quite a long gap there.
Yeah.
And to come back not only feels like getting back into a welcome groove, but also, you know, it's sort of almost a bit new and fresh at the same time. And
I think gardening's moved on. I think the pandemic, there was a huge interest in gardening and, you know, wildlife and biodiversity and I think it's all shifted on a notch in a really good way, and engaged a lot of people who had never gardened before, and now the messages are coming through.
I mean, what I think has happened, but it'd be nice to happen more, is that people don't feel disenfranchised. Yeah. You've got a balcony, it's a garden. You've got pots on your windowsill, it's gardening. Yeah. And you don't have to have a great big show garden and spend hundreds of £1,000s on it. Mind you, it's nice to see them.
It's nice to see the whole range of them. But also in May, you've got plants, for the show garden, some are held back, some are brought forward. So there's an intensity to the planting
and
as
also,
well.
There's no question about it, we're rising up to summer. It feels optimistic. It feels like everything's going to get better, as a gardener anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fabulous show this year. It's absolutely packed.
Busy,
at
every level.
And gardening is big across the board.
Yeah.
Well, tonight we'll be bringing you the highlights of everything we've just talked about and more from the RHS Chelsea Flower Show 2022, an event supported by the Newt in Somerset. Let's
start on Main Avenue with a closer look at one of the 6 gold medal winning Main show gardens, Sarah Eberle's Building the Future garden.
You know very well what it takes just to put a garden here, let alone get a gold medal.
Yeah, and the standards are so high. You make one little mistake here, one little mistake there, and suddenly you're going down to silver, gilt silver, and it really is tough.
And yet, this year there are 6 gold medals on Main Avenue.
Yeah, which is fantastic. So the standard is high this year.
Well, this is one of them.
This is one of them, Sarah Eberle's.
It is extraordinary.
Wow. This really is wow.
Yeah, it is. Well, I think that's the key to it, isn't it? Yeah. It's a show, it's a performance.
Yeah.
Inside this, sort of machine workings, isn't it? It's like a cave.
Yeah, it's like an industrial, sort of
And I love the little touches, and we haven't even mentioned round the back is the most glorious wall.
I know, but this is Chelsea, this is pure theatre. You can only do this sort of thing here, and it works brilliantly, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think theatre is the thing. Some Chelsea gardens are naturalistic, some are aspirational. This is just drama.
But you know what, though, Monty? If it was just that structure and that water feature, it's not going to win a gold medal at all. No. It also has to be integrated into a garden, into the planting. Yeah. And her planting is absolutely gorgeous.
You say her planting, there is Sarah.
Sarah!
Sarah, come here.
Hello!
Sorry, was I being rude about Sarah?
No, it's fine.
Hi,
Sarah, hello. We're talking about you.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, I remember seeing you really early on in the build, and you said, this is either going to work or it's going to be a disaster. Well, it's worked, hasn't it?
It has, but it's shortened my life. Because right until the last minute, I didn't know whether it was going to work. There was a lot of risk involved.
When you say going to work, what do you mean?
Well, because it's the aesthetic is based on the almost fantasy Victorian Gothic grotto. But it's put together with other materials. It's not real. And that fantasy become quite Disney-esque or cartoonish.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure until we completed it, which it would be.
And when you make a garden, and I think we should say you've got more gold medals than anyone else ever.
And more Chelsea gardens than anyone else ever.
Do you set out to get a gold medal, or do you just try and make a nice garden?
No, actually never do that. Because once you chase medals, you lose the integrity of what you're doing because you make decisions poorly.
Yeah.
You can, every time you make a decision based on other people's thinking or how you think they'll think, you'll go the wrong way.
So you're making this garden for yourself?
Absolutely make it for myself.
This is what you'd have in your back garden.
Well, I might.
But it's an art form, okay? And you're doing it for yourself, and you're channeling that creativity.
Yes, and it's actually my integrity, my passion, my belief that makes it work with a team who believe in me.
And your incredible skill. I have to say, because the planting is divine.
Oh,
it's
thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not just high drama. It's really skillful, beautiful planting.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Well, congratulations.
Well
Really,
done.
It was fantastic.
Another gold in the bag.
Another gold.
Well done.
Thank you.
Another female designer creating a buzz this year was Ruth Wilmot, whose show garden was inspired by the work of the textile designer William Morris, notably his famous designs trellis and willow boughs. Joe caught up with her the night before she made her Main Avenue debut.
And here we are, and it looks absolutely stunning. But when you know the narrative behind it, it just adds an extra layer of interest, doesn't it? And here at the back, we've got this pavilion, and it's gorgeous. This is in dragon's blood, as William Morris would have called it. It's a great colour. And we've got the willow boughs pattern, which create a beautiful dapple shade beneath, a really lovely seating area on a hot day like this. And then the trellis pattern is laid on a diagonal through the garden, which creates a really lovely movement and interest as you walk through. We've got the water just rippling over here, just creating a nice little bit of movement. And then the planting is sort of quintessentially English cottage style. I had a bit of tree envy when this wonderful hawthorn was being craned in a couple of weeks ago. And the verbascum, this verbascum petra, picks up again on the colour of the pavilion, and it's dotted through the garden. There are bees all over it. Ruth, are you pleased with this garden? I mean, it's your first time doing a large show garden on Main Avenue. How do you feel?
I'm absolutely delighted. I love it. We've had such a good time building it.
Is it exactly how you imagined it to be?
It's certainly the way we intended the brief to be, and the colours. We've been really lucky with all the plants and the colours, yes. So I'm glad you like the verbascum petra.
Yeah, I love the verbascum petra. Yeah, but could you send some of the bees down to my garden a bit later? Yeah, they're all over it. I mean, it's a lovely hawthorn too.
Yeah.
What about the strawberries? Did the strawberries make it?
The strawberries have made it. They're there at the front for everyone to see at the show. The lovely head gardener Celia at Kelmscott Manor grew those for us, and they're taking pride of place at the front.
Yeah, I really love the water because you can just hear a tiny little bit of trickle, but it's more just that sort of, on a hot day like this, that glistening.
Yes, the cooling and the effect is, we wanted it, the water to just ripple and glisten over the pattern of the willow boughs.
Behind the pavilion, actually, there's a much wilder area, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's the willow, and it's much wilder style
Yes.
of planting.
Yes.
Which is great for nature and wildlife.
And birds in particular. So Morris had a recurring motif of birds in his patterns, and we wanted to create habitats for birds, so with the hedging and all the trees, and particularly the wilder area at the back. So we've had blue tits come and visit us, and blackbirds, and obviously the robin.
Fantastic. So it's a garden for people, it's a garden for wildlife,
Yes.
it's a garden for the visitors. Thank you, Ruth. You've done a great job. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, it's fantastic when Ruth got a gold medal. You could see how much it meant to her.
On behalf of the RHS, I'm delighted to present you with your gold medal. Well done. Congratulations, Ruth.
Well, many congratulations to Ruth. And away from the gardens, plants were also making a splash. Frances Tophill was spoilt for choice as she searched out the fleeting springtime beauty in the showground.
Peonies are undeniably some of the most romantic and floriferous of all the summer blooms, and each flower so highly prized because it doesn't hang around for very long. Here on the Primrose Hall stand there are over 40 different cultivars. This is Jadwiger. It has red stems and dark foliage and a fully double beautiful pink flower. This is Shirley Temple. It has a pure white double flower that opens from a pink bud. It's a mid to late season flower, so depending where you are in the UK, expect your flowers to open anytime from the end of May. Peony veitchii subspecies woodwardii is much closer to the species form of the plant. Unlike most peonies that need full sun, this one will cope with the woodland or semi-shade position. Peonies were first cultivated in China and were particularly popular with the imperial gardens. It wasn't until the 19th century that breeding them became really popular here in the UK. There are three main types. There's herbaceous peonies, tree peonies, and intersectional peonies. And I love this Binny stand because it's showcasing some beautiful single peonies, and I especially like the Blushing Princess and the beautiful Velvet Ruby. I've come to the Space Within garden to look at another classically fleeting flower. Of course, it's a wisteria, a beautiful climber. Usually they're purple, but they also come in white as well. And there are two forms. They're native to China, Japan and eastern USA. But there's the Japanese wisteria, which is Wisteria floribunda. Now that has longer flowers, and those flowers come at the same time as the leaves. And as it climbs, it twines clockwise. There's also the Chinese wisteria, which flowers a little earlier, has flowers on bare stems, so no foliage, and that one will twine anti-clockwise. But isn't this just glorious? Syringa, or lilacs, may be a traditional shrub, part of the olive family, but they're grown for their amazingly sweet scented blooms. This one is Agnes Smith, and it's a beautiful white shade. They come in whites and purples, but this looks stunning in its naturalistic, limited colour palette planting that's around it. For a lot of the year, they can look a little bit scrappy, but for those few weeks in May when you get blooms, they're absolutely glorious. Blink and you'll miss these fleeting beauties, but I'm sure we can all agree that they're well worth the wait.
Chelsea is also the place to celebrate the brand new cultivars that the expert growers have been breeding for years. Rachel de Tame spent the week on a voyage of horticultural discovery.
The Great Pavilion is the place to check out the new plant varieties, so I'm in my element. This gorgeous little geranium is in fact big news because the colour is so unusual. Its name is intense and it really lives up to that with this dark sort of strong magenta pink. And that's a colour that you do find in some of the taller forms. But this small dainty flower and that bright colour, it just makes it exceptional. Now it stays nice and compact like this, so it's perfect for growing as a ground cover, perhaps along the front of a border, in a container or at the edge of a raised bed like this. And the foliage is a bonus too, so very attractive, and it's semi-evergreen, so you'll get some of that staying on the plant through a mild winter, and in the autumn it colours up to beautiful shades of red as well. It's nice and easy to grow, normal well-drained garden soil, and it will grow in full sun and also take a fair bit of shade. And when those flowers finally begin to die away, well, just chop all of that off and you'll get a new flush to see you through the rest of the year. I think it's a fabulous plant. It's definitely on my shopping list. It can be rare to find a plant with a solely British heritage, but this little dianthus is exactly that. And it was 6 years in the breeding, another 3 years in development, so it's taken a while to get this plant to Chelsea. It's a little dianthus called Electric Dreams, and that colour really refers to the strong intensity of that dark pink. As with all dianthus, it's got this lovely silvery grey foliage, which is an indicator that it's drought tolerant. So in fact, what it wants is really good drainage in the soil. And then the flowers, well, they're just going to keep coming until the first frosts. So lovely to see a new shrub here at Chelsea this year. This is Weigela Magic Carpet, and it's one of a new series aiming to bring real interest into the leaves. So it's got this lovely sort of really nice compact shape. And this one has this wonderful bright green leaves when they're new, and then through the season the colours become warmer, so you've got tints of apricot and peach just coming into these leaves here. The flowers are gorgeous, this lovely sort of rosy pink colour, and of course the shape is tubular, so wonderful for bees and other pollinators. The whole plant is compact, only gets to about 60 centimetres in height, so it's great in a large container and also really useful in a small garden.
There are so many exciting new plants launched at Chelsea that in 2010, the RHS launched the Plant of the Year contest. This year, competition was stiff, but one plant emerged victorious.
And the winner of Plant of the Year 2022 is this rather magnificent Chrysanthemum Destiny, bred by Mark and Daniel at Surreal Succulents. Congratulations, guys. How does it feel to win?
Oh, just over the moon, delighted. It's amazing.
So why is this plant so good, do you think?
So it's the world's first intergenetic cross-species hybrid consisting of Aeonium and Sempervivum. It's amazing because it's got the kind of foliage and vigour of an Aeonium. We've also tried to breed in the hardiness of the Sempervivum. So we're trying to basically breed a UK hardy succulent. And this is a really amazing breakthrough because, you know, if we haven't got the hardiness with this actual batch, we've got a genetically compatible plant that we can now cross back into Sempervivum.
That is really amazing. So this one, is it hardy?
We've had it to -2, which is, you know, most Aeoniums are frost tender around sort of 5 degrees, so we're on the right track with it.
So how would you recommend people grow them? Are they good for containers, or would you have them in amongst the borders if you have a very free draining soil? How would
You can grow it in your border. I've got them in my garden at home, just outside in the border. In containers is ideal because they make a real statement piece on a patio. So especially the Destiny, it's just a giant head.
Huge congratulations. Well, you should be very proud, and you should all just have a rest now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Most of the gardens at Chelsea are destined for permanent homes once this event is over, and in places where people from all walks of life can enjoy them for years to come. Now, one of those is Jamie Butterworth's Place to Be garden, and this is its story.
I'm Jamie Butterworth, and I've worked on nurseries since I was about 14 years old, and it's always been my dream to have my own, and here we are essentially. I'm the owner of Fawn Plants, which is a lot of pressure but a huge amount of fun. So we grow a whole range of normal trees, shrubs, topiary for normal customers, but in addition to that, this year we're also growing for 6 of the big gardens at Chelsea Flower Show. So these are Largostromeria indica, and they're quite an unusual plant. We've never grown them for Chelsea before. I just love them, these really beautiful trunks. I think they're fantastic. Come on. We're also growing about 20 to 30,000 herbaceous perennials for the show as well. So take these Digitalis, for example. They're budding up nicely. All being well, we'll get 40 beautiful ones in flower, ready for Chelsea. I'm a gardener, I'm a horticulturalist, I'm a plantsman, I'm not a garden designer. But actually, I've done RHS Chatsworth Flower Show. We were actually the first garden ever to win all 4 awards, which was surreal, especially for my first ever garden. And then last year, we did the RHS Hampton Court Palace Flower Show, and that sort of led to where we are now with Chelsea. So the garden we're creating is called the Securing Tomorrow Garden for Place to Be, which is a children's mental health charity. It's a garden for a child to go and sit in to talk to somebody about whatever's on their mind. This garden is going to Chelsea, but it wasn't designed for Chelsea. It's designed for the children at Viking Primary School, and that's the bit I'm most excited about.
We're a small school. Most of our children live on the estate and in the high-rise flats around the school. Most of our children have limited access to outdoor space. We have quite a high need for Place to Be support, and our children are always very excited when we have Place to Be support on 2 days a week.
Children present with a variety of issues that we can support. We can't change home circumstances or family. We can't undo trauma. What we can do is give them a safe space where they can process that and come to terms with what life has thrown at them.
You will when you try these.
Working with Jamie has been extraordinary.
There's a buzz about it throughout the whole school.
He's visited us several times now and met with the children and got their ideas for textures, shapes, colours, seating areas, and today we actually get to see what he's designed.
So, here's the garden. We've got these giant sandstone boulders, then step down into the sunken seating area. There's these sculpted oak seats. So we've used some of the shapes that they've made in the classroom to actually determine what these look like. You can see it's beautiful from the outside, from the classrooms, from the corridor, but actually when you're sat inside it, you get this feeling of intimacy.
It's beautiful.
When I've spoken to the children, they've articulated the importance of being able to talk to you, and actually you can make that environment as safe as possible for them.
Absolutely.
Part of my role as an ambassador for the RHS is I go into quite a lot of schools across the country. So to be able to go into Viking Primary School and work with these children has been fantastic. You never know what they're going to say or what they're going to do, but it has been incredible. So guys, does anybody know what these are? I'll give you a clue. You can buy it in tins and you have it on toast sometimes.
Beans!
Beans! So these are runner beans. Put your fingers over the top, and then turn it upside down, and then squeeze the pot and it'll come out like that. Look at that, that's perfect. Look, these white things here, these are all its roots. A little bit more in that one, so I want to fill it up to about there. That little line there.
I think it would be nice to turn this into like a quiet, a nice calm place. It would be really fun to see the plants grow every single time you come here.
Do you remember the shapes that we made? So we made some sort of beanbag sort of shapes, didn't we?
I did.
You did. So those are going into the garden. We're going to have those beanbag shapes in the garden so that we've got somewhere to sit. And then who made the flower shapes?
Me.
Yeah, so we're going to have some of those flower shapes going into the garden as well. How excited is everyone?
Well, I was really excited to see this garden too, and it's an absolute triumph. It really is. It's very simple in its design. There's some big rocks there that create the steps down into this sunken area. You're completely surrounded with planting and two beautiful oak benches too. But really, with Jamie's work, it's all about the planting. And here we have a realistic planting scheme that really would work in anybody's garden here. The plants meld together really nicely, mainly textural greens. We've got this lovely valeriana and the cow parsley with the odd shot of colour. Things like the poppy here and this salvia. It's very simple, but it's really tranquil and beautifully put together. Jamie, lovely garden. It's gorgeous. First time at Chelsea in gold. And how are you feeling?
I'm still up there somewhere. I'm on cloud 9. It hasn't quite sunk in yet. It's just to be at the show is a huge privilege in its own right, and to win a gold is just the cherry on the top.
Yeah, because you've been involved in a lot of gardens, over the years. You're still a young man, but this is your garden.
It's the first time I've ever put my own name on my own garden, and it's an incredible experience. I feel a bit numb, to be honest. I don't know how to describe it, but you've got one, you know what it feels like.
I know how it feels. I know, but I mean, the kids, in the video that we saw, the kids' response to outside space and the excitement, and I can just see them in here having sort of stories told to them, and it's a learning experience, just being outdoors, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's what this garden's all about. It's not about the medal, it's about the children, and it's about creating a space that facilitates and stimulates a conversation for these children. 1 in 6 children now suffer from a diagnosable mental health condition. So enabling them to be able to talk, whether it be to a place to be a practitioner, a teacher, a family friend, whomever, it's so important that actually we get the early intervention and we start young and to show them that it's okay to talk, and that's what this garden's all about. It's facilitating that conversation.
Yeah, and that connection with nature. Listen, it's a great garden. Good luck with moving it to the school. I hope it goes well.
You, Joe.
And I'll see you again here soon, no doubt.
Thank you.
Well done. Jamie's is a beautiful garden, isn't it?
I loved it. I went there about 3 or 4 times throughout the week. Every time I got more from it. But it wasn't so much sort of knowledge or special plants, it was a feeling. It felt good and it was very clever.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
You've got 2 steps down, 2 rocks down, a bit of gravel, just beautiful planting and 2 beautiful benches.
Oh, those benches were gorgeous. But I think it's all of a piece, because there was Charlie Hawkes' garden. I loved it. I loved it. And that again is very simple.
Yeah, that was, and there's Lottie Delamain with her textile garden. That's all about plants category, new category. I think that works well.
Young designers, not just being radical, which you need from youth, but being skillful. They've got real talent, and we will see them emerge.
But they're also exploring really interesting narratives and simple narratives. They're not getting bogged down in the narrative. It's all about the garden.
Yeah, it just looks beautiful.
It really does. Well, the new category seems to be part of a real effort by the RHS to get people interested in gardening and gardens who they traditionally might not have reached before. They've got these new ambassadors, and they're not all from a gardening background at all. They're a mixed background. But they've got an interest in gardens, people like Joe Wiley.
Absolutely, and I mean, there's quite a diverse group.
Yeah.
And I have seen people say, well, they're not gardeners or they're not horticulturally trained. That's missing the point.
Yeah.
You know, we want people who will get out there and spread the word that gardening is fun, it's enriching, and you don't need to have passed exams to do it.
It works on so many levels. It cuts through. If you love plants and you love your garden, then you know you are a gardener, aren't you?
Absolutely, and it doesn't matter if you've got a balcony, whether you've got a big garden or whatever. I mean, I always say that you do not need to know the Latin name of something to know that you think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's, so let's get as many people as possible gardening.
Yeah, well done to the RHS, I totally agree.
I think it's a good thing, and you know, it's the more diversity, the more unusual. We want new things sharing that old love.
Yeah, well, we all know, we all started somewhere, you know, it's that accessibility, just having a bit of fun with it, as Adam says, starting somewhere and just, you don't know where it's going to lead.
Yeah. Well, one of the most common elements uniting the designers this year has been the innovative use of trees in their designs. There's been some huge ones. But trees really are so much more than just a design feature. They are, in fact, essential to our very existence. One of the features of nearly all the big gardens nowadays are giant trees craned in by huge machines, and they're all part of the drama and display of a show garden. But trees work with mankind and each other on so many different levels. Let's start with their uses. For example, here in the RNLI garden, these pines and the coppice elms represent the wood that the lifeboats were built on. Trees, we're increasingly learning, are a vital part of carbon capture to moderate climate change. They absorb vast amounts of water from floodplains. Now that's all above ground. We can see all that happen. But underground, there is a whole world of complex interaction between trees and other organisms, and between trees and each other, that we're only just beginning to learn about. This is the metagarden, Growing the Future, and it exists to try and illustrate that world that is happening underground, beneath and around and amongst the roots of trees, because it's all fungal. Fungi are this magic element that are enabling trees to thrive, to survive, and also, extraordinarily, to communicate with each other. Now, it begins with mycorrhizal fungi, and as gardeners, we've been using this for the last 20 years or so. The mycorrhizal fungi take sugars from the roots of the tree, and that nourishes them. And the tree uses the fungi almost as an extension of its roots. And different trees can access those same filaments of the fungi and can use it not just to grow and to feed, but also to communicate. Now, this extraordinary connection, which has been called the Wood Wide Web, is obviously going on underground and we can't see it. But what this garden has attempted to do with great creativity is to portray it so that we get some kind of insight into what's going on. Okay, I'm now underground. I'm in amongst the fungi and the roots of the trees. And if I cut through those roots, they make a hexagon shape. And that's why the hexagon has been used here, and that's why this structure uses hexagons. Because when the fungi enters the cellular structure of the tree, it forms itself a hexagon shape. And what you have is this very close relation, they almost become one, between fungus and tree. So if we use fungicides to blast what we think of as bad fungus, we are doing far more harm than any possible good. What we have to do is be humble about this, learn about it, and try and encourage a healthy environment that uses and needs fungus in order that our beautiful trees can thrive. Now, you may think that this only applies if you've got woodlands or a big garden or a big show garden. That's not the case. It applies to all trees. If you've got a window box, a roof garden, every tree on this planet is connected in this way and can contribute, be it with carbon capture or fungal level, to everything.
So plant a tree, look after it, and it will look after you.
There really have been some impressive trees around the showground this year.
Some
hawthorns.
You had hawthorn on your garden.
Well, no, when I was doing the build, all these massive hawthorns were coming in. They were all in flower, and I was thinking, oh no, mine's not in flower at all. And then they went over, and they're still beautiful trees, and then mine came into flower. Mine's the Crataegus Lovelii Carrierii, and it's got bees all over it, which is the whole point of my garden.
Well,
So
it's lovely. It's lovely, and I'm glad that hawthorns are being featured as a garden tree.
Yeah.
Because they're a wonderful small garden tree. There were two trees that I particularly liked. One was on Sarah Eberly's garden, right up high on the roof. That
I saw that being craned up there.
And the other one is on one of the All About Plants gardens, which was one of the core arts front garden revolution. There was a medlar, a beautiful medlar, and you don't see medlars very often at Chelsea.
I know, they are good trees though.
Yeah,
fantastic
absolutely.
trees.
Now, still to come from the RHS Chelsea Flower Show, an event supported by the Newt in Somerset. We'll chat to the winner of Chelsea's highest garden design accolade.
And Adam Frost brings us his guide to design, and this one's all about creating privacy in your garden.
But first, over in the Great Pavilion, Carol went to find out what it takes to win the award that every single nursery man and woman have their eye on.
In 2012, to mark the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, an award was introduced for the very best exhibit in the Great Pavilion. In this, the 70th year of the Queen's reign, the award has been reintroduced as the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Award. The initial process for the judges is to decide who's got the gold medals, and then the judges revisit the stands, get together and decide who's the overall winner. Well, I'm lucky enough to be talking to Jim Buttress, who's in charge of one of the judging panels, the one that deals with cut flowers. I want to ask him all about medals, golds. How do you get one?
Well, you have to follow the criteria which we're all given.
Because there are 3 criteria.
Absolutely, Carol. 3 criteria. The first one is plants, but it's the plants doing the talking.
I mean, it is, isn't it? Just plants that hit you.
And although I don't like to use it, we do the wow factor. First impressions.
Yeah.
And then finally, the last one is endeavour. How difficult to get this plant out and ready. I mean, these haven't just been put together in 5 minutes.
No.
They've thought about it for a year, they've been specially grown, they're taken in, they're out, and so on and so forth, till finally they bring them here to create this unbelievable display of colour.
And that's why they won?
A gold medal.
What is it about this stand that makes it through and through gold?
Well, it's very simple, isn't it? Because these are from the Americas, and this is how you'd see them in their natural situation.
You could almost be in that forest, couldn't you?
Absolutely. And the other thing too about it is the attention to detail is absolutely superb. And bear in mind, Carol, as an island site, we as judges can see all the way round.
Yeah, there's nowhere to escape, is there?
Exactly. Nowhere to escape, and if there's a pot showing, I'll find it.
Yeah, I bet you will. There can only be one winner of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Award, and that's Matthew Smith from Brighter Blooms.
This is the award, it's the Platinum Jubilee Award, it's the best exhibit.
No way.
What a marvellous thing you've achieved here. Well done. Congratulations.
This is going to be the only Platinum Jubilee, isn't it?
It is, yeah, so it's really special to get it this year, yeah, definitely.
It really is.
Even though it's 24 hours later after getting it, it's still, yeah, quite amazing to have achieved that, really. This is our first Best in Show anywhere, so to do it at Chelsea for the first time, thrilled.
So after this pinnacle, you're going to have to keep it up, you know.
I think we should retire now, we've reached a high point. No, we will carry on, definitely, but what to do next is the question, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much. No, thank you, it's wonderful.
All Also in the pavilion was the floristry competition. Arith Anderson met some of the talented designers to find out how they interpreted this year's nature-loving theme.
The broad theme this year is the roots of life, celebrating what we eat and what we breathe. Hi, Anya.
Hi, hello.
This is stunning. It's so gorgeous. I really want to hear about the inspiration behind it.
Well, we've really tried to tell a story here about nature's ability to disrupt our life by roots coming out of the ground and upending this table and throwing everything all over the place.
What sustainable methods have you used to keep everything in place?
We've used recyclable materials where we could, really as much as possible. These cups are actually stuck on with a vegetable-based glue. So it is a completely sustainable method. We've been using a volcanic rock wool product to hold the flowers in place. Yeah. These are mounted on the table, and then we use these really nice vines to cage them in to try and give us a bit of a structure so that we could mount the flowers on.
Where do you source your flowers from?
So we try and source flowers as close and as local as possible. Actually, we've got quite some few nice British flowers in here, including those really nice dianthus just over there in hot pink.
Well, it's so inspirational what you've done here, so it's amazing.
Thank you so much, that's really kind, thank you.
It's long been accepted that trees are so vital for our well-being and the environment. And here, a designer has created an installation of an ancient tree in an old meadow. And that's to remind us that man-made buildings mustn't encroach on our open green spaces. This is stunning, I have to say, Stephen. Tell me, how have you managed to keep this staying up?
Well, it's a lot of mechanics, clever mechanics, because as you know, we're not allowed to use floral foam anymore. So it's got a metal structure. It even has yogurt pots, soup cartons, everything that will give you the shape to hold the flower in water.
Well, the illusion has worked. It looks brilliant. I'm really interested to hear where the inspiration for this come from.
I was in Costa Rica and we decided to go to a rainforest. It was just mind-blowing. We just came back and just felt that we'd kind of seen something special.
What's the key message you want visitors to go away with?
I'd love people to just see that this is a snippet of the rainforest, that it's a vast smorgasbord of plant material and animals. And this is just to show that if we don't act now, we will lose it.
There's some real drama and creativity in the floral installations here, and it's great to see how florists and we can be more sustainable in our own displays.
Throughout the week, Adam Frost highlighted the best planting schemes and design trends in the gardens here, so that we can be inspired with ideas that we can use at home.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in
Some big trees at the end of the garden. Well, they will be big eventually if we can wait for the 15 years. What I love about this, and this is sometimes what we're scared about, is putting large shrubs, small trees close to our house. Here, that cornice works superbly. Beautiful multi-stem tree. You could do that with an Amelanchier, something that could be manipulated, thinned, shaped. It's deciduous as well, so it will give you that privacy in the summer months when most of the time we're out here in the garden, but actually in the winter loses its leaves and lets the light back in. So really, really simple but effective. The moment I sit down there, I feel safe. I'm tucked in under that tree. That cornice is doing a fantastic job. So just putting something a little bit closer to the house and terrace can really work.
There was so much imagination and creativity to enjoy in the gardens this year. But who did the judges decide was worthy of the Best Show Garden Award? Monty joined Sue Biggs, Director General of the RHS, to surprise the winner.
We've worked with all our team, the landscapers, the water guys.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have something that you have won, Lulu and Adam, the Best Show Garden. First time Isn't that amazing?
I apologise for the
I can't believe this.
Don't go away. Don't go away.
Absolutely beautiful. It's a perfect garden. It's absolutely
perfect. What is extraordinary to me is that you've translated quite a big idea, quite a sort of big concept, big landscape, big animals, into the small space of a show garden. And the fact that you won gold medal and best in show and everything else is extraordinary. Was that difficult? Was that really the essence of the problem, or did it just happen naturally?
I mean, when we looked at it, we went with we were interested in beavers as ecosystem engineers, but we're working with Rewilding Britain, and we wanted to show them the rewilding process that happens when you introduce key sort of keystone species back into the landscape. Beavers work really well with Chelsea because there's water. It looks good in a show garden. You know, it's natural, and you get a lot of opportunities with planting communities.
Producing a dam.
Yeah.
Into show. I mean, what was that like?
We're very lucky because Water Artisans and Ben Garner behaved quite beaver-like. He was always in the ponds when we were out researching beaver landscapes. He was rattling around trying to find out, you know, trying to get the right materials, get it looking straight. We actually got beaver Nord sticks from beaver areas, and we've just been collecting for months with our teams. But what's really interesting is this dam filters and cleans water.
Yes.
And so the technical construction of it is a composite dam underneath it, and then actually we've Ben's used Hessian and Koya to clean the water, to really show murky pond to water, because you know this is what we need at the moment with our waters. You know, the sort of pollutants in the waters. We need to show how systems can clean themselves.
Your meadows down below.
Yeah.
Benefiting from this clean water.
Well, that's one thing, and also the dam. What a dam does is it spreads the water out across the landscape, creating more wetland habitat. So one of the beaver sites we went to doing our research, we actually saw white storks flying over, and we saw night herons, species that haven't been seen in the UK for a long time.
As a result of the beaver.
Exactly.
And they see this landscape of wetland, and they know it's got food, they know it's a flourishing biodiversity, so they go.
Well, you've taken this big idea, you've taken the landscape and these really quite complicated processes, distilled it into a Chelsea garden, one gold medal, one best in show. My guess is you're quite happy at the moment.
We are.
Well, well done.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As the week drew to a close, Nick and Carol were looking at how to enjoy the weekend the Chelsea way, both inside our homes and in the garden.
It's the end of the week and I think I know just where to go. This is Planet Studio and it's inspired by Studio 54. Fancy a drink? You know, it's like your very own plant-based disco, and there's all sorts of influences in here. This whole space is full of quirky, unusual and retro houseplants, and this is a great example. This is called Tillandsia usinoides, and it's a form of bromeliad. It comes from South America. It loves to be misted, likes a humid atmosphere. Of course, it doesn't have any roots at all. And then once or twice a year, it will flower for you with the tiniest little lime green blooms that have the most incredible scent that will fill your backyard disco. Now, looking across to the bar in the background here, this really represents what went on in Studio 54 back in the day, while characters were doing shady things in shady corners. Now, while it's nice to treat yourself on a Friday night, let's not forget your houseplants deserve a treat as well. So I've come into the plant clinic, and this is all about looking after your plants and giving them the very best. So over here is the steam room, and this is all these fantastic little terrariums, which of course are little sealed units, so the plants exist in that sort of sealed set of moisture over there. Behind me is the jacuzzi, or a plant propagation station. And so these plants, like these giant monsteras, you can easily propagate just as water cuttings like this. And this at the back is the solarium. And of course it's just LED lights, but it's a great way of providing that full range of light wavelengths to keep plants alive in darker areas like this. And then finally, in the corner here, it's the juice bar. And of course these are liquid fertilisers that you can use to keep your house plants happy, healthy, and looking fantastic in your home. This space is known as a room to dance, and what a fantastic vibe it's got. It feels very minimalist and very chilled out. All the plants are suspended, so you get to see the beautiful silhouettes of them set off against this white background. Of course, many of them are jungle plants, and there's a nod to that in this rattan which runs all the way through the room. And then just beside me here is a very common but very useful houseplant. It's known commonly as pothos, and it's brilliant because it will happily trail out of a container like this, or you can train it to go upwards as well. And then finally, up here is Hoya. This is a fantastic houseplant. It's evergreen, so it looks good year round, but once a year it will come into bloom with fantastic clusters of flowers that are really strongly scented and will absolutely fill this space with wonderful fragrance. This is a lovely space. What better way to end your evening?
If you're off to a nursery or the garden centre this weekend, I've got a few ideas that I hope will inspire you to try something new. Just look at this lovely combination here. When you're choosing plants, you're not talking about them living on their own. And Chelsea is full of ideas for combining plants beautifully. This is a combination that would thrive in shade. Chirophyllum hirsutum roseum, this lovely, pretty little umbel. And then another umbel in the background, an astrantia. Doesn't look like an umbel, first of all, because it's got these papery bracts, and then this Hattie's pincushion, they call it, in the centre. And then running all the way through it is this lovely Geranium sylvaticum. And this is just what it does. Lives amongst other plants, bringing these little purple touches here and there. The whole thing is just glorious. Most of us have boundaries to our gardens. Sometimes they hedges, fences, walls, and it's really great to think about growing things upwards. Well, on this stand, you're really spoilt for choice when it comes to going up in the air. But I picked out two. This lovely Solanum laxum album. If you look at the flowers carefully, you can see it's related to tomatoes and potatoes, but much more ornamental. It'll flower on and off throughout the spring and summer, but as we move into autumn, that's its very, very special time. Great bunches of small white flowers. Providing you give it a little bit of shelter, it'll probably keep most of its leaves too. But when it comes to leaves, how about its neighbour? This Actinidia tetramera, related to kiwi fruit, but you don't grow it for fruit or anything. It does have small pink flowers at this time of year, but it's its leaves that you really grow it for. It's really good in full sun, and eventually that cream will fade, but isn't it magnificent? It's so eye-catching. And either of these can be grown against a fence, a wall, or in a container. Absolutely brilliant way to introduce height into your garden. Most parts of our gardens are akin to some sort of natural habitat. And when you think about your beds and borders, if anything, they're closest to a meadowy sort of situation. What's a meadow? Lots of grasses along with perennial flowers coming up here and there. Maybe an odd annual or two creeps in, and perhaps a few bulbs. And that's exactly what this garden is doing. And it's something that we could all emulate in our own beds and borders. Look at this great Baptisia. Usually Baptisia are a deep, brilliant blue, but this one's called Dutch chocolate. I think it's adorable. It's very much a background plant, but look how it mixes and mingles with everything else, rubbing shoulders in your border. It's not a question of chucking out what you've got, far from it. It's building on it, being adventurous, introducing new things that perhaps you hadn't dreamed of before, and your garden will take on a whole new aspect.
There's an endless source of inspiration here at Chelsea. And here is our BBC Two family with some of the ideas that they will be taking away from this year's show.
If I could take one thing home from Chelsea, it would be Sarah Epley's building. It is amazing. Mind you, I don't think I've actually got the room.
My choice is a tulip I've not grown before called Bronze Perfection, and it's so beautiful. Look at that blend of colours. It's mid-season, so April to May, grows to about 50 centimetres in height, and as a bonus, it's fragrant.
My favourite at Chelsea this year just has to be the Kevitt Garden plant stand. It's utterly lovely, but within it I've had to choose two plants. Fritillaria camschatensis, which loves a shady, shady place with these dark, dangerous flowers. And in complete contrast, Celusian scirocvata, whose pure white flowers open at night and emit the most delicious perfume.
If there's one thing I'll take away, it's the idea of using these cork tiles outdoor in garden applications. I think they look really dramatic, and this natural feel to them really is going to work in a garden setting. And the good thing is that they're sustainable and good for the environment.
My take home from Chelsea this year has absolutely got to be verbascums. They are firmly back on the table. They appear in loads of different gardens and nursery stands, and a real star is a plant I haven't seen for years, Verbascum Helen Johnson. It has that really interesting kind of muted apricot brownie note. It's absolutely beautiful. It looks brilliant in gravel gardens, and it works equally well through herbaceous borders. So verbascums are my plants to take home from Chelsea.
One thing I've loved seeing at this year's Chelsea is this. This is true valerian, or Valeriana officinalis, which is often overlooked for the red valerian, which isn't really valerian at all. This one is the herbal one with the root that you use in a tea that's nice and sleepy. It's also got a lovely scent. I can smell it coming over the wall from here. And it's just great seeing it in lots of different show gardens around the site this year.
Well, I'll be taking the benches on Andy Sturgeon's Mind Garden made by Johnny Woodford, brilliant sculptor. They're just gorgeous benches, those. I'll take them back on the tube with me.
Well, they're lovely. Talking of benches, I really like the 2 oak benches in Jamie Butterworth's garden.
Yeah.
They're really good.
We could have one each, maybe.
All right, but the thing I think that I would take, slightly eccentrically, is the sarsen stone in the middle of Charlie Hawkes's pathway in his garden.
Beautiful.
It's lots of levels. It's a beautiful stone, lovely stone.
It's covered in moss already.
Yeah,
You know.
and also the way that he's worked it in. I mean, he's used that
How are
really
you going to
well.
get it back, Monty?
I'll get someone else to carry it for me.
Yeah, you get. Of course you will.
Of course I will.
Of course
I will.
Well, that's almost it from us, but we can't say goodbye until we've done one last Ask Monty and Joe.
Right, far away.
Far away. This is from P. Grrr. Ask Monty, I am struggling to select plants that can grow happily in shady, dry conditions. The area is bordered by mature beech trees which overhang and seem to suck moisture from the soil.
Yeah.
Brambles and ivy do well, but are not welcome. Any suggestions, please?
Beeches famously have fairly shallow roots, they have very heavy shade, and it will be dry. I think what you have to stop seeing it as a problem. You can have ferns, will grow very well under there, Mahonia.
Yeah, Mahonia aquifolium is quite a good grow.
Yeah.
Euphorbia robii will grow. You also want to try and get some compost and plant small.
Yes.
Don't put big plant small and establish them.
And I
spots.
grow a number of different hardy geraniums. In that sort of situation, they look great. Geranium macarizum, Japhium.
Geranium phaeum is a beautiful one. Okay, hi Monty Joe, it's Peter Frawley. This year, none of the dahlias I planted last year have grown back. What did I do wrong?
Well, there are 2 possibilities, I guess. I mean, I first of all probably planted too shallow, and therefore there's a real risk of them rotting off if it was wet and cold.
Well, it depends what part of the country you're in. Because in some places they won't. If it's really cold and damp, they're not going to necessarily come back.
They need good drainage. They do need good drainage, and they need protection from frost. That's why we lift them. If you're going to keep them outside, the other thing to do is plant them as deep as you can, and then mulch them heavily as a kind of blanket.
But they might not have come up. I mean, it could have been. They could still come through.
When I left home to come here, mine hadn't come through.
Yeah. Okay.
One more.
Okay, last one. My 4-year-old Prunus triloba tree was just about to break into flower, but a late frost burnt all the buds. It now looks dead without leaves, although there does seem to be some green under the bark lower down the branches nearer the trunk. Is it worth waiting to see if it recovers, or should I dig it up and replace it with something hardier?
Just of course wait. It's
Well,
not
they are hardy. I mean, maples are tough as old
completely
boots.
hardy. No, don't dig it up. Be a bit more patient. Am I getting cross with you now? Give it a chance. Come on.
Give it a
it's
chance.
fine.
If there's a little bit of green in there, it's still alive.
That's it. No more. We're out of time. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for joining us all this week. It has been a huge privilege for us.
Tomorrow night, I'll be back with Sophie on BBC One at 6 p.m. with more highlights from across the week.
And from all of us in front of the camera and the team, the big team behind it, thank you. And goodbye until next year. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.